I'm shot.
The man has a full house and he knew it.
The 1970s, what a weird and wonderful time for science fiction. Before CGI took over everything, before blockbusters had to make $1 billion to be considered successful. Back when directors had to get creative with practical effects and strange camera tricks that somehow still look amazing today. I grew up watching these movies on beat-up VHS tapes my dad collected, and let me tell you, there's something magical about those grainy films that modern sci-fi just can't capture. The miniature models, the matte paintings, the philosophical questions that don't get answered with a big explosion in the third act. So many 70s sci-fi flicks feel dated now. The jumpsuits, the disco-inspired set designs, those hilariously optimistic ideas about what the year 2000 would look like. But some of these movies, they're like fine wine. They've actually gotten better with age. Today, I'm gonna take you through 8 sci-fi films from the 1970s that honestly deserve your time in 2025. These aren't just good for their time, these are movies that will still blow your mind, mess with your head, and show you things you've never seen before. Even after all these years, trust me, your streaming queue is about to get a serious retro upgrade. Let's start our time machine and head back to the days of shag carpets and space exploration. Star Wars, 1977. You know, I can still remember the first time I watched Star Wars. Not the special editions or the prequels or any of that stuff. The original. I was probably 7 or 8, sitting cross-legged way too close to our old CRT TV, and that Star Destroyer just kept coming and coming across the top of the screen. It felt like it would never end. Look, I know what you're thinking. Star Wars? Really? That's your first pick? I get it. This movie is everywhere. It's been merchandised to death, quoted in every sitcom, and referenced in practically every piece of pop culture since 1977. But there's a reason for that. Strip away all the franchise bloat, the decades of toys and spin-offs, and what you're left with is this perfectly contained adventure that still works on its own. The practical models give everything this weight that CGI just can't match. The Millennium Falcon actually looks like a beaten-up smuggler's ship because, well, it was a physical object that existed in real space, and the pacing, modern blockbusters could learn so much from how this movie moves. It gives you just enough information about this vast galaxy without drowning you in exposition. It trusts you to fill in the gaps. When Ben Kenobi mentions the Clone Wars, we don't get a 3-movie prequel explaining it. We just know it was something big that happened. I rewatched it last month with my niece, who had somehow never seen it before. And watching her face during the trench run sequence, man, that's the magic of movies right there. 40+ years later, and it still delivers that same rush. Sure, some of the dialogue is cheesy, and yes, you can spot the matte lines in a few shots if you're looking for them. But none of that matters when you're caught up in this perfect hero's journey with characters you can't help but love. Alien, 1979.
I'm altering the vector now.
Oh man, Alien. This movie messed me up as a teenager. I remember sneaking downstairs after my parents went to bed to watch it on our basement TV with the volume turned way down. Big mistake. I didn't sleep right for weeks. What makes Alien still work today isn't just that it's scary, it's that it takes its time getting there. The first half plays like a blue-collar space drama about these working-class people just trying to do their jobs and get home. The Nostromo doesn't look like some sleek starship from the future. It's industrial, cramped, lived in. There's coffee cups and magazines scattered around. These people bicker about bonuses and contracts, and then that scene in the medical bay. You know the one. I still get goosebumps thinking about it. The practical effects for the creature are somehow more disturbing than any CGI monster made since. There's something about knowing that thing was actually there, on set, that makes it visceral in a way digital just can't match. What Ridley Scott did here was basically invent a whole new genre, the sci-fi horror, and Sigourney Weaver as Ripley, one of the all-time great characters in film history. No superhero powers, no special training, just someone smart trying to survive against impossible odds. I made my roommate watch it last Halloween, and even though he knew the big moments were coming, he still ended up with a pillow clutched to his chest. That's staying power. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, 1977. Now for something completely different. If Alien is about the terror of meeting something from another world, Close Encounters is about the wonder of it. I first caught this one during a Spielberg marathon at my local theater when I was in college, and sitting there in the dark as that 5-note musical sequence played, I got it. I totally got why this movie captivated a generation. What's cool about Close Encounters is how it approaches alien contact. There's no invasion, no laser battles. It's about communication. That sequence where humans and aliens basically have a conversation through music and lights is pure cinema magic. It's hopeful in a way sci-fi rarely allows itself to be anymore. And Richard Dreyfuss as Roy Neary, the way he becomes obsessed with this shape he keeps seeing, sculpting it in mashed potatoes and eventually building that mountain in his living room, there's something so relatable about that artistic compulsion. That feeling of having something in your head that you need to get out. The special effects still hold up beautifully too. Those motherships floating over Devil's Tower with their pulsing lights. It all has this handcrafted quality that feels timeless. And when the aliens finally show up, they're these skinny little guys that move like puppets because, well, they were puppets, but somehow that makes them more enchanting than threatening. Mad Max, 1979. You know those movies that grab you by the throat in the first 5 minutes and never let go? That's Mad Max. This wasn't some big-budget Hollywood production. This was a bunch of Australians with barely any money making something raw and visceral out in the desert. The first time I saw it was at this Grindhouse double feature in college. I went in expecting something cheesy, and instead got punched in the gut by this lean, mean machine of a movie. It's barely even post-apocalyptic compared to what came later. It's more like society is just starting to fray at the edges, which honestly feels way more relevant now than it did back then. And then there's young Mel Gibson. Before all the controversy, before he was a huge star, he was just this intense-looking dude with haunted eyes who barely speaks. The camera loves him in this primal way that you can't teach actors. What's wild about Mad Max is how much they accomplished with so little. Those car chases, all real. No CGI, no safety nets, just stunt drivers actually putting their lives on the line. There's this one crash where a motorcycle hits a car and the rider goes flying. They only had one take for that shot and nailed it. That danger translates to the screen. The film's got this grimy, dusty aesthetic that countless movies have tried to copy since. Every post-apocalyptic wasteland we've seen in the last 40 years owes something to this movie. Those leather outfits, the souped-up muscle cars, the makeshift weapons, all started here. The Man Who Fell to Earth, 1976. Okay, so this one's weird, like really weird, but the good kind of weird. I discovered The Man Who Fell to Earth during my David Bowie phase in high school. Someone told me he was in this sci-fi movie from the 70s, so I tracked down this scratchy DVD copy at my local video store. I wasn't prepared for what I watched. this isn't your typical alien invasion story. Bowie plays Thomas Jerome Newton, an alien who comes to Earth to get water for his dying planet. He uses his advanced technology to become a tech billionaire, which seems prophetic now, but slowly gets corrupted by human vices. Alcohol, sex, television. The movie has this dreamlike quality that's hard to describe. Director Nicholas Roeg doesn't spoon-feed you anything. There are these jarring cuts, these strange sequences that might be flashbacks or flash forwards, or maybe happening in Newton's mind. It's disorienting in the best possible way. And Bowie? He was born to play an alien. Those otherworldly eyes, that ethereal quality he always had. He barely has to act. There's this vulnerability to his performance that gets me every time. You watch this being from another world slowly disintegrate in our atmosphere, both literally and metaphorically. What makes this film special is how it uses science fiction to tell a deeply human story about isolation and addiction. It's artsy and experimental in a way big studios would never greenlight today. When I showed it to my girlfriend last year, she was confused for the first hour, then completely mesmerized by the end. That's the mark of something special. Westworld, 1973. Long before HBO made it into a mind-bending TV show, Westworld was this tight little sci-fi thriller that kind of predicted our whole AI anxiety before most people even knew what a computer was. I stumbled across this one on late-night TV when I was maybe 14. My parents had gone to bed, and I was flipping channels, and suddenly there's Yul Brynner as this robot cowboy gunslinger with these dead silver eyes just relentlessly hunting people down. It freaked me out. The concept seems so familiar now, a theme park where rich people can act out their fantasies with lifelike robots. But in 1973, this was revolutionary stuff, and it wasn't played for laughs. Michael Crichton, yeah, the Jurassic Park guy, directed it with this clinical precision that makes everything feel disturbingly plausible. What's amazing is how much this movie predicted. The idea of AI rebelling against its programming, the ethical questions about creating sentient beings for our amusement, the dangers of relying too heavily on technology. It's all here, packaged in this B-movie wrapping that somehow makes it more effective. And let's talk about Yul Brynner. With barely any dialogue, he created what's basically the prototype for the Terminator, this unstoppable machine that just keeps coming. There's this shot where he's walking through fire with his skin partially melted away to reveal the robotics underneath that gave me nightmares as a kid. The special effects are obviously dated, but that somehow makes it creepier. Like, the robots look almost but not quite human in this unsettling way that modern CGI sometimes smooths over too much. Anyone who thinks Black Mirror invented techno-horror needs to go back and watch this film. Silent Running, 1972. Have you ever seen a movie that just sticks with you for days afterward? That was Silent Running for me. I discovered this one during a college film class, and at first glance, it seemed like this quirky eco-space movie with these cute robots. But man, there's so much more going on beneath the surface. The setup is simple but haunting. Earth's plant life is dying, and the last forests are preserved in giant greenhouse domes attached to spaceships orbiting Saturn. Bruce Dern plays Freeman Lowell, this dedicated botanist who's been maintaining one of these forests for years. When orders come to destroy the forests and return the ships to commercial service, let's just say he doesn't take it well. What makes this movie special is how personal it feels. It's directed by Douglas Trumbull, who did the special effects for 2001, A Space Odyssey, and you can see that influence in the gorgeous space sequences. But unlike 2001's coldness, there's this beating heart to Silent Running. The real stars of the show are Huey, Dewey, and Louie, these little maintenance robots that Lowell reprograms to help him care for the forest. They're basically just boxes on legs with mechanical arms, but the way they move, The way they seem to develop personalities, it's incredible what they achieved with such simple designs. I genuinely got choked up watching their story unfold. What's your first memory of watching any of these classics? Did you catch them as a kid on TV or discover them later in life? Drop a comment below and let me know if these films hit you the same way they hit me. Soylent Green, 1973. You know, it's kinda eerie watching Soylent Green now. Back when I first caught it on this scratchy VHS tape at my friend's house in high school, we laughed at how far-fetched the future of 2022 looked. Now, not so funny anymore. This movie imagines a world ravaged by climate change, overpopulation, and food shortages where most people survive on these processed food rations called Soylent. And if you somehow don't know the big twist ending yet, well, I almost don't want to spoil it for you. Let's just say it's one of those cultural touchstones that people reference without ever having seen the movie. Charlton Heston plays this detective investigating a murder in this overcrowded, sweltering New York City. And what starts as a standard murder mystery slowly unravels into this horrifying revelation about what society has become. There's this scene where Heston's character gets to experience real food, like actual vegetables and beef, and his reaction is heartbreaking. He's literally never tasted them before. What makes this film special is that beneath the sensational elements, there's this genuine warning about where unchecked capitalism and environmental negligence could lead us. The wealthy live in luxury, while everyone else is crammed into stairwells and abandoned cars. Sound familiar? The film has this sickly yellow-green tint to everything, like you can feel the heat and pollution through the screen. It creates this claustrophobic atmosphere that stays with you long after the credits roll. When I rewatched it last year during that massive heat wave, those scenes of people sweating in overcrowded apartments hit way different than they did when I was a teenager. This movie might be over 50 years old, but its warnings feel more urgent now than ever. So there you have it. 8 incredible sci-fi films from the 1970s that still deserve your time and attention. They might not have the slick production values of today's blockbusters, but they've got something that a lot of modern sci-fi is missing. Genuine ideas, practical effects that still hold up, and stories that make you think long after the movie ends. I grew up with these films, staying up way too late to catch them on TV, tracking down rare copies at video stores, and eventually sharing them with friends who'd never experienced them before. They shaped not just my love of science fiction, but how I see the world and technology and our future as a species. What other 70s sci-fi gems do you think still hold up today? Did I miss any of your favorites? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, hit that like button and subscribe for more nostalgic deep dives into cinema's past.